And we are live. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Kristen J, Robert, thanks for showing up, guys. Tonight we are going to get back into last week's attempted episode at Chatterbait trailers. Which one is the best? And I know what you guys are thinking. Jay, are we going to have 100,000 problems today? Gosh, I hope not. I think we just about had everything figured out, you guys. But we have got some interesting stuff to talk about tonight. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and we'll take 2 or 3 seconds here. Let a couple of people show up because I think some people might actually come in tonight. Who knows? We shall see. But give me a second, guys, and we'll be ready to do this. All right, you guys, so here we go. Last time we told a little story before the whole thing got kicked off, and that was a lot of fun, and I kind of laughed to myself and chuckled about, about the story about me trimming my beard off. So I did some trimming just so everybody's straight on that, and lost about an inch and a quarter on the beard. So I'm a little upset with that. Still haven't got a chance to get the haircut, but that's in the moves here real shortly. So here we go, guys. Again, like we talked about last week with the episode that'll never be seen, with the follow-up episode that'll never be seen, but nonetheless, 13.5's here. All right, the curse of 13 is now broken because it's a 0.5. We talked about the 3 different kinds of retrieve. There's a burn it. You know what I mean? I'm talking 7.5 to 1 or 8.3 to 1 or some crazy ridiculous 9.75 to 1, whatever gear ratio these guys are going with nowadays. And instead of doing all that, that's your burn it. You know, that's regardless. You're at a high gear ratio, you're at a medium heavy rod, and you are ripping it back. Okay, this bait is searching. This bait is all over the place. Okay, it's darting 2, 3, 4 inches left and right, all depending on what you use for a trailer. The next type of retrieve that we're going to talk about is going to be, it's kind of a speed up, slow down, pause. All right. So the speed up, slow down, pause retrieve, we're just going to call that off cadence. That's the easiest for me to describe it. It has no rhythm. It's awkward. It's real fast, slow pace. It's a stop. It's a drag up. It's a real, it's off cadence. We'll just call it off cadence. So we got burn it. We got off cadence. Now the third one is what I like to call a drag and drop. And that's where you're reeling a little bit. You're bringing the rod from a 45, maybe even like a 135 if you got the rod tipped down and you're really burning it. If you're just bringing that from the down position to the 45 to almost 90 up position, and then letting it fall again as you slowly reel your slack in, that's what we'll call the drag and drop. Okay, give me 1 second. How's the video, guys? Everything looking a lot better tonight? I'm hoping everything works out. Let's test this out. I didn't test this out before I went live, but again, tonight's demonstration lure is going to be the Z-Man Jackhammer in the Shad Green Pumpkin. Black blade, subdued, couple of dots there. It's more of a green pumpkin bottom. Got that eye. Kind of a bulbous head on the jackhammers. Hand-tied skirt. We talked about that last time. You know, the difference between the different skirts. And again, this is the hand-tied skirt. We got that double barb keeper right there, guys. And you guys can see that. All right, that little red thing right there is so I don't poke myself. Okay, they come standard. This thing's harder to get off than it is to get a bait on, in my opinion. I mean, I struggle to get these things off. All right, guys, let's change this sound up a little bit. Let's get into something a little bit more exciting, because we're going to start talking about some really cool stuff. Now, I've separated this down into just several different designs as far as what the trailers are going. But in tonight's episode, what we're going to talk about is probably one of the most important things that I can teach you as an angler, from one angler to another angler. All right. What I can tell you guys is this. Presentation is the utmost important thing, right up there with A, having a bait in the water, and B, having the water clarity, and be within the fish's eyesight. The fish is not going to strike your lure if it hits him. I'm just going to tell you, if you bump into the fish with your lure, it's not going to strike it. Like we talked about the last time we did episode 13. How many of you guys have brought a retrieve back to the boat and literally watched a fish follow it in? You might have had 15, 20 yards that fish has been following that bait, just trying to figure out whether it wants to eat it or not. And what's really happening is that fish is finding flaws in your presentation. All right, guys, shout out to Swaney G, SoFlo Outdoors, Jeff, Kristen J, Robert. Thanks, you guys, for coming in. Like I said, again, tonight we're going to get a really good in-depth presentation of not all. Now, trust me, there are others, but we are going to talk about the majority of what's out there for trailers. Not by every manufacturer, because I'm stuck on the Elastec products. I like putting something on and like 2 years later going, oh man, my worm's shot. 2 years later. You know, it's harder to keep this stuff out of the sun being on the boat all day than it is actually to keep one of these baits together while you're fishing. Back to what we were talking about, guys. So that fish is actually following you back, following your bait back, because there's something odd about the presentation of your bait. So we're going to start with what I like to consider my go-to. My go-to is always something small. And I know everybody teases me, well, small baits catch small fish. Well, they catch a lot of fish, and I'll tell you why they get a lot of fish to strike. The small bait has just that little bit of flaw that the fish doesn't really react to. It has no reason not to think that that is going to be something that is not natural in its environment. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by that is that the smaller the bait presentation, it's not like bass see in super HD clarity vision. Okay, they can see for distances from what we know about them. For all we know, we could find something crazy that allows the bass to see just about everything. But I don't really think they do. I think that with the advancements and the techniques and the baits that we're seeing in today's fishing industry, the science of fishing is actually playing in at this point, if you ask me. It has become very scientific. So we're going to start with some of the smaller presentations. We're going to have 3 or 4 different categories, maybe 5. We might even break into 6 different categories of trailers. But I think every one of these trailers is going to give you guys a fantastic idea of what I'm talking about when I say smaller presentation will equal more fish. Okay, so here we go. We're going to start off with the first one, which is just a simple little trailer. A little chartreuse split tail grub, I think they call it. Hold on. Yeah, split tail grub. 4-inch, simple, but deadly. And I'll tell you why. Not only is this going to be a little smallmouth killer, but this thing is going to have the ability to really trick the fish, because when paired up with the 5/0 that comes on the jackhammer, this bait is actually just going to be a couple of small trailers. Now you make sure these are separated. You know, they're going to tend to be together because of the way they're packaged, but nonetheless, this little setup right here will get bit. And I'll tell you why. I'm not going to put every one of these on. It's just not going to happen. I got way too many to deal with all that. But smaller presentation. Now we have 3 different ways of reeling with this. There's the burn it technique. Would you use this for the burn it technique? Yes, absolutely I would. This is going to be just enough that a fish is going to see something out of its eye, corner of its eye, and it's going to strike it. I can tell you right now if it's moving fast enough. Would I use it with the off cadence? Yes, off cadence. I'm going to use it. I might also use it for the drag and drop. It's just going to depend on what kind of fish I got in my area. I mean, this is a 1/2 ounce jackhammer. If I size down to a 3/8, we might be talking about a pretty good smallmouth. Smallmouth like to strike things like the tubes. You know, so this is kind of like a tube delight for a drag and drop technique. We talked about that earlier. Okay, now we're going to move into how old school are some of you guys. Now, let's be honest here. This is going to tell how old school some of you guys listening are. First of all, if you're in here right now, thank you very much for hanging out tonight. I appreciate it. Every Tuesday, you guys, this is kind of my thing. 7:15, we sit around, we talk about some baits, and we move on. But here's an interesting thing. Do any of you guys remember the pork chunk? One in the chat if you remember the pork chunk. One in the chat, guys, if you remember the pork chunk. We got some ones in the chat. You guys do remember the pork chunk. And what made the pork chunk so effective? What, in your personal opinion, what made the pork chunk so effective? Guys, really, real quick pause on that real quick while we think about that. We're going to do a little bit of call-ins with some of my buddies here soon, and we might even have some call-ins for some of you guys to actually call in and chew it for a minute on the old fishing tip. For those of us that remember pork chunk, you guys, Z-Man created the bat wing. That's right, guys. The bat wing. This thing is pretty neat. Now, it comes pre-stuck together. Okay, pre-stuck together at the bottom there. Now, that thing will actually, because this is Elastec, that thing will actually stay stuck together for several fish. You might even have like a fish hooked in the middle of this thing. Trust me, I've seen it. Now we're going to apply the bat wing just like the pork chunk, guys. We're literally just going to sit it on the back right here. We're not even going to get it up to the keeper, and it's literally just going to be two little feet flapping off the back, just like the pork chunk used to. Small mouth, tear it up. Another thing that's real nice about Z-Man plastics is they take scent. Any scent, any market scent that's out there today, these things will take it. They'll absorb it instantly. You got yourself a fish and traction magnet. You get some of the old pork scent. I'm not trying to tell you if you want to do it if you're a smallmouth guy. This will kill smallmouth. This will kill them. This smaller set like this, I believe this is a 2.75. Hold on one second. Yeah, this is a 2.75 in the Batwing right there, in blue-black or black-blue, whatever they want to call it. These go all the way up to a 4-inch, just so you guys know, for some of you down south guys that really want to try a big bait like this, these go all the way up to a 4-inch. So they do have a very large size pork chunk looking bait. Okay, give me 1 second. Again, but like I was saying earlier, one of the most important things to remember when choosing a trailer is that smaller presentation will tend to elicit more strikes. Bottom line, I don't care how you want to average it or how you want to figure it out. If your goal is to go fishing and your goal is to catch fish, it would behoove you to put a bait in front of the fish that all fish will bite. You know, you don't get to choose what hits your hook. You know, and I say that all the time. I just went out this last Saturday, Headwaters, fantastic trip. No kidding, in upwards of 40 fish again. 9:30 in the morning, beep, 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 beep. We have got overheating GoPros at 9:30 in the morning. Zero ability to film all day. And it was fine because you know what? We both got out of our element for a minute and just caught fish. And that was the most important thing of going fishing, is catching fish. Jeff remembers in the little glass jar. You got it, Jeff. That's exactly right. That's what pork chunk used to come in. It was actually a big chunk fat of pork, like it was gross, shaped like a bat wing, just like this bat wing thing is. Except for this thing has got a little flat side. Can you see that? There's a flat side, and then there's like an egg style top. Could this bait be used to skip? Absolutely not. That was something we covered last week. I'm sorry, guys. I should have brought that back into today's cast presentation, you know, with the skip. If you want to talk about which one of these would be an effective skipping bait, we can get into that as well. And I think that's a little bonus we're going to talk about when we get through this whole cycle. So anyway, pork chunk, right? Nailed it. Next one is I believe this is the TRD Craws. This is the TRD Craws. This is a little, I think it's 2.5 inch. That's in the watermelon red, neutral buoyancy bait. So the little flippers are going to stick up right there when this thing hits the bottom when it's used in a Ned, but at the same time you put that on a setup something like this and just leave those little tentacles out there and work the drag drop. I wouldn't necessarily work this type of rig on a burn it under any circumstance. Crawfish isn't just going to go burning across the environment. I might use it on the off cadence retrieve. Pretty sure that would be the way I would use it, but I'm definitely going to use it in a drag and drop. As far as being able to skip something like this into a dock situation or creating a real search bait, the chatterbait, guys, remember, is a search bait. It's a search bait, but it's a technique-driven search bait. So using one of the 3 retrieves is how that technique is going to be applied, and that's going to be determined by what you're using as a trailer. Just to reiterate what we've all gone over here several times. As a Ned rig, this is a smallmouth killer, guys. Smallmouth bass will destroy this thing if you can get yourself into some rock with a Ned style head or a shaky Ned style head. Crushing. We talked about this thing a few times a couple of episodes back. Now, those get a little bit bigger. That's the TRD craw, but let me show you something else. Now these things get a bit bigger. Like I said, the TRD craws is, hold on. TRD craws is 2.5 inch, and now we have the 4-inch punch craws, which you guys see this. I'm going to show you a size comparison difference. This is the punch craws. Look at this thing as far as a crawdad goes. Very articulated, you know. The tail's a bit larger, a lot more girth to this one as opposed to the little 2.5 incher there. It's a much larger bait, much bigger presentation. Again, I'm not burning this. Again, I might do off cadence. Again, I might do a drag drop. But remember, we're staying under 4 inches here. That's kind of the key. This would be more usable in an area where you knew you were going to have larger crayfish, and this would be more of a smaller up north. You know how the little reds get up there. This is more Louisiana, down South Florida. This is more Lake Erie or river, just to give you guys an idea of what you're looking at as far as the size. But remember, if you're in an area using the proper trailer with the proper retrieve, you can get bit all day. Now, again, the 2 off cadence retrieve on that and the drag and drop retrieve are going to be the way that I run those. That's going to be my mission on those 2. All right, the next one is called a helicraws. Now, this is kind of interesting because this is it's basically another one of those craw designs, but this one's got a little bit different technique to it, and I'll show you that. This is a 3 3/4 inch. I think they come in a 4.5. I'm not quite sure. Don't quote me on that. But this is another crawdad style. Look at this. Look at the size of those big old mutton fins right there. Okay, look at the girth. Look at the fat on this thing. It's almost a cross between a TRD Bugs, a goat, and a rage tail. Now, this paired up with something like this is definitely going to give you something you can skip. And the reason you could skip it, I can't even hold this thing. The reason you could skip this is because the maximum amount of surface area. That big old wide surface belly right there makes this thing very, very, very skippable. Because like a stone, when you're skipping rocks, do you pick up the rock that looks like a musket round, you know, a musket lead ball, or do you pick up the one that's flat with more surface area for more potential energy while the rock is skipping? Flat, more surface area. Again, TRD Bugs, just a bit bigger than the TRDs. are than the other ones, but at the same time, these are called helicraws. So just so you know, that's another interesting little thing. This I'm going to run a burn with. Just given that body, I might try to burn it. The tails, the little fins, they might kick a little bit. I don't know. They're going to probably get pretty crazy. A lot of action, but I don't think it's going to allow the bait to search like I'm looking for with the burn it technique. One sec, guys. Some of these I want to be able to put back. I got like 10 out in front of me, and it's crushing me to have all these things all over the floor. But I'm just thinking it's easier to talk about it when I got it right here in my hand. The next type of trailer bait that we're going to go to is I believe these are the TRD bugs. Okay, so the TRD bugs, fantastic little set. Little wide body. We've got the vibe rib. You guys can see the vibe rib. This is interesting. This type of vibrating rib right here causes a lot of water displacement. This is good in a darker, cloudy, or even a stained water. Not so much in the open water because it's not really a natural environment thing. We've got 4 different appendages here that are all able to move on their own. Gives a good presentation. A lot of guys use these as flipping bugs, but again, excellent pair for a chatterbait. Okay, excellent pair for a chatterbait. Again, smaller presentation, the hook's in a good position, flatter surface area. Again, flatter surface area. This is the small one. This is the 2.5 inch. Okay, this is not the big one. They make a 4 inch, and I think they make like a 4.5 inch version of this, but I don't have any of those, so nonetheless. Skipping potential, yes. Burn it retrieve, probably not. Now you can offset this. You don't have to leave this with the flat part under, so it wouldn't have to sit flat on the bottom. You could turn this thing sideways and go vertical with it, something like that, and that would give it a very efficient swim, kind of off center. So it would be more in the search and the burn it technique. If you laid it with the flat surface area down, that would be more for your off cadence or your drag and drops. So versatility, very interesting way to look at it when it comes to the creature style baits with the, I believe that's called the palmetto bugs. Okay, next we're going to talk about is the goat series. Now the goat was interesting, greatest of all time. Z-Man thought that they had figured it out. What they needed was a certain length and a certain girth with a certain flipper with little appendages in certain places, because this is the way that fish strike. They took their most efficient designs of all their products and created the goat. So you guys are going to love this thing. This is the goat. The goat. Those interesting fluttery tails. They have like a pocket here. I don't know if you guys can see, there's like a pocket there on the inside. Look at that. And then it's a different shape on the back side, but there is actually one on the back side as well. We've got a big, thick, wide, girthy body. That's a watermelon red. That thing is looking fire red to you guys. That's crazy cool. Sorry guys, I think my light shifted. Give me 1 second. Let me fix that. That's going to drive me crazy. That's it. All right, hold on. Let's get some more tunes. Okay, so here we go. The goat. Now this comes in 3 different sizes, and that's interesting. And you're like, oh, of course it does. And you've got all 3 sizes and every color. I'm going to show you why. All right, guys, coming in at a whopping 3 inches, we got Das Baby Goats. That's a little 3 inch, same product you just saw. And then coming in at a whopping 3 3/4 inches, we have Das Goats. And then coming in at a whopping 4 1/4 inches, we have Das Billy Goats. And that's the one I just showed you guys earlier. The Billy Goat being the largest of the 3. But again, we were talking about surface area, skipping, yes. If you lay it flat with the hook pointing up, so you have more surface area towards the bottom of that bait, okay, more surface area towards the bottom. No, the burn it back technique is not going to be for you. It's really not. Again, greater surface area. So you're going to want that on your off cadence and your drag and drop. Now, if you were to turn that straight up and down, so it's swimming this way, like a minnow, awesome search bait. Okay. Again, multiple uses, why they call it the goat. Can do a lot of different things. If you leave the 2 feet together, because these 2 appendages are actually sealed together. Look at those little points there. Look at that. Why those would be there, I don't know. They're like a tickler. Get it? And then you've got these 2 things are actually together. You can separate those. You can just pull it apart. I don't like pulling them apart unless I'm using them, and I try them together first. It's just, I'm anal like that when it comes to these things. But nonetheless, the goat, excellent. A lot of different uses. A lot of surface area, great to skip, great efficiency. It's a good bait. Hold on, guys. I got to wipe my hands. I'm touching all these baits, and they're probably cancerous. But they are made in America, so can't really complain there. Hey, we got Rod in the house. We got Jeff. We've got Kristen, Mark. Hey, welcome, Mark. Thanks for showing up, man. All right, guys, now we're totally going to switch it up. Okay, now that we've gone into like creature style baits, we've gone into like big palmetto bug style baits, we've gone into the old pork chunk style, we've gotten grub style, we've gotten just all over the place as far as those types of odd style baits. But nonetheless, now we're going to get into some more of your just standard conventional baits. Okay, we're going to get into the paddle tail minnows. This is actually called a minnow Z, or minnows. This is a small little 3-inch. I think it's 3 or 3.5. I'm not quite sure. Hold on. Yeah, the minnows is a 3-inch. It's a pretty good bait. It's pretty neat. This is chartreuse silver. It's one of my favorite ones. I usually run this on a white chatterbait, straight white. It's got me hit before a few times. We got a regular standard paddle tail, almost wedged. So wedge style tails are going to be used in off-colored water, just so you guys are clear on that. Wedge style tails in off-colored water. Okay, hint, hint, just so you guys know. Because what fish are keying on there is the change in light exposure. Guys, I shouldn't even be talking about this with you guys right now, because this is like so unfair. Hey, Trisha, how are you? This is so unfair to be giving you guys all the juice secrets right now that even like some of the big time names will not talk about, when in reality, this is what they're doing. I'm just telling you, some of these guys know the game. I've talked, I've listened, I've had great experiences living where I live, and it's just really, really neat that I get to talk to you guys about this. And eventually, when people do start seeing this and taking some of this stuff into the account, they're going to change their fishing game for sure. And you'll see, it's going to be funny. Remember, wedge style tails for stained or murky water. Hint, hint. Okay, again, 3-inch. One of my favorites. Now, I'll go all the way up to a 5-inch on one of these. Again, wedge style tail. You're not going to find any of my fisheries having the cleanest water you've ever seen. And if you do find clean water, guys, okay, and you're looking for a higher hookup percentage, smaller bait. They won't chase it back to the boat. They'll be more apt to strike it at a distance, long casts, okay? And they do hit on the end of the cast. And it's amazing because you end up dropping your bait in the water and then not even getting into your rhythm, whether it's, again, burn it, off cadence, or drag and drop. Okay, we're gonna keep referring to these things because listen to me, guys. Sometimes it's all just about a change in your presentation. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. So, fishing this Saturday down in Headwaters, one of the things we found out was nothing was hitting. We had several different worm styles. I mean, we were hitting dinks all day long, but it was a real kind of wavy bite, meaning sometimes it was both of us hooking up, sometimes it was one of us hooking up, sometimes it was just him hooking up, sometimes it was just me hooking up. We're working two different areas of the water. We're working three different techniques. Again, what's going to happen? We don't know. But as long as you continue to show those presentations, things will happen. So here we go. I'm doing the old worm technique. You know the one. If you haven't seen it before, I can go ahead and just hear. You know what? As a matter of fact, let's take a moment. Let's take a moment to watch the worm technique.
I don't wanna let myself down.
Got it. Oh yeah. Got it. Got it. There it is. Got him. Got it. Uh-oh. That's real.
That's great. That's great. I'm telling you, that's such a great episodes. But for those guys that haven't seen, for you guys that haven't seen that, it's probably one of my best works yet. It's right up there with Urban Warfare. I thought it was right up there with Urban Warfare. But anyway, sometimes downsizing your bait doesn't always do the trick. So what you have to do is you have to change the presentation. Okay, so we all know my shaky head worm technique. We all know it's a slow drag, drop, double pop. Game on. Okay, there's a lot of pendulum. The reason it works is because there's a lot of pendulum. And what I mean by that is my presentation isn't as much this as it is this. Like a bait fish, it flows. The key is flowing your bait. Having your bait have that parabolic trajectory. See, I'm teaching you guys things that I shouldn't be telling you guys right now. Parabolic fall, parabolic trajectory. That is the key terms to how fish are imitated when you're imitating or emulating a fish, a bait fish, searching down towards the bottom. They don't drop straight down, nose down, and that's where they're hanging out, okay? They have kind of an off-angle parabolic rate of fall. If you can attain a parabolic rate of fall with any of your bottom-feeding worms, these worm baits do not emulate worms in the wild. These worm baits are emulating bait fish, you guys. That is the key to worm fishing. So the more presentation, the more parabolic flow or parabolic fall, pendulum, parabolic, it's got that rise, up, flutter, fall. I'm telling you, that's where it's at. That's where the money's at in the fishing game. Jeff said Blackbeard, the casting spot pirate, didn't show up again, did he? You're the best, Jeff. You're the best, Jeff. All right, so here we go, guys. Now, back to these different style baits. These things, the ones we just talked about, the wedge tails. Now, there's different types of tails, but wedge tails. You notice I'm going to keep saying wedge tails. There's a reason I'm going to keep saying wedge tails. I believe that the fish have the ability to spot, and this is what's been proven. If you talk to biologists and people that study bass fishing with, Doug Hannon, I'm telling you right now, the dude knew everything about bass fishing. The dude was a legend. There's a reason for it. He knew the science. Now, what he talked about was how bass eyes are so light sensitive that they actually have the ability to target distance, size, and range as far as the ability, direction of the fish's travel and things like that, not by seeing the fish but by seeing the way that the particulate matter in the water shifts and adjusts as prey move through the water, allowing different spectrum of light to come through the water, allowing kind of like a vapor trail for that bass to follow, find, and decide whether or not he's going to eat. Now that is a nasty that is just an amazing way to look at the predatorial development of bass, but that is exactly how predatory these fish are. So again, the wedge tail in the murky water is going to give your best definition. Now, that is one of my favorite techniques as far as the burn it and the off cadence. Can it be used for the drag and drop? Yes, it can be used for the drag and drop. You will get a parabolic fall with a chatterbait. Now, there's a reason I chose a chatterbait to talk about this, guys. This is the most emulating parabolic fall lure you're going to find is the chatterbait. That's what's made it so successful. This thing does not just fall. This big blade catches water. This big blade causes it to float down with an awkward presentation in that parabolic angled fall. So with that being said, give me 1 second. All right, the next one I want to talk about is probably one of the most unorthodox methods that you guys will ever see, but I will tell you right now, it will get bit. And that is the 4 3/4 to 5 inch. That's the 4 3/4. This is a Z-Man Streaks. A lot of you guys will think of this and call it a fluke. That's right. What's the difference between a Streaks and a fluke? Single tail. Look at the action on that tail, and I'm not doing anything. I'm not a shaker, okay? Look, I don't have a problem with shaking. I don't shake. That's the natural action on this bait. Now, when you start talking about crushing it, this bait as a search bait is going to allow not as much as you would think, but it's going to allow this. Oh, hold on. I almost gave away my secret now and showed you guys what the best one is. Too early. Hold on. Let's get some music going. All right. Search bait. Remember, this is a search bait, but the development and the ability for this thing to search is going to be determined by what your trailer is. Okay, so single tail. Look at all that action. That's ridiculous. Okay, single tail, wide body. Okay, got a good parabolic to it. This little channel on the inside right here, not only is it good for hiding your bait, hiding your hook. You're not hiding your hook on these, just so you guys know. Okay, if you're running a chatterbait, you're not hiding your hook. I'm just going to promise you that, all right? So this thing's going to sit up something like this. But that big wide body channel that we saw on the bottom is actually going to catch air, and it's going to cause a slower rate of descent for this bait. When reeled fast in a burn it technique, because there's only a single little bit of thin and finesse tail right there, it's not going to be as much action from left to right. But in this off cadence reel, this right here will get you crushed. What is this color, you guys ask? It's called the deal. What color is that? It's got some green pumpkin. It's got some black. It's got some blue. It's got some periwinkle blue. I think they call that periwinkle. I'm not quite sure. Great replica as far as if you got bluegill in your area, this thing right here will trigger some bass. Okay, this color, the deal, trigger some bass. Fantastic action. But again, skipping it, maybe not. Why do I say that? That big channel on the bottom gets in the water. That's not going to skip. It's actually going to splash right in. You're probably going to get your top of your chatterbait wrapped up in your line a few times, and you're just going to get pissed off. But long cast on the burn it or the off cadence, crushing it. Drag and drop, I'm not going to put my money in the drag and drop. Nil, everybody's doing good. Hey, everybody. Drift Falls. There you go, Rod. You got it. Drift Falls. It's actually, like I said, the key, the scientific term, Rod, is parabolic descent. Okay. I know all the fancy words for all the funny things that you really just want to call falls at an angle, but it's not falls at an angle. Okay, there's a real term for it, and you go to some of these bass seminars and stuff like that. Like I said, I live right down the street from a very, very, very fantastic facility where they have all these things, and I actually go to some of these that they give out for free because I live in this county. And I will tell you right now, to listen to some of these guys speak is fantastic, because a lot of these professional anglers, as much as you'd hate to believe it, and you'd think they were just, kind of like guys that got lucky somewhere in life, a lot of these guys are very intelligent. They are very intelligent. They will explain things to you in such a manner that it will blow your mind to think, I just thought you were some silly redneck dude. When I see you on TV, you sound like you're just acting a fool because you're getting to fish for a living. But in reality, some of these guys are brilliant. Like, they are college educated. They're textbook people, and I don't mean going to college makes you any smarter than anybody else. Okay. But you can use big words if you've been learning from the textbook. Now we're going to get into what I find to be, in my personal opinion, the most efficient, effective, and specific chatterbait trailer on the market today. You guys ready for this? 1 second. Just give me 1 second, because you know what time it is.
Oh, what's that? You noticed? My fishing gloves? No, those are cool. Yep, those are the new Heathen Squad socks for sure, folks. I'll tell you, my fishing day couldn't get any better. I got my gloves and I got my socks. Heathensquad.com.
All right, guys, and we are back. All right, guys, you ready? We're going to give out the secrets now. We're going to talk about a few more things, and we're going to call it a night, you guys. First of all, thank you very much, everyone, for hanging out. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't been here before, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and get lost in some of the playlists on the channel. Some are fantastic, you guys. There's also a link to the Heathen Squad gear, because, again, in case you haven't noticed, yeah, that's a blackout. That's an incognito there, boys. You couldn't even see it. You guys didn't even know I had on a Heathen Squad t-shirt. You were like, he's just wearing a black t-shirt. No. But without further ado, boys and girls, the one, the only Razor Shads. That's the trailer, guys. 3-part articulated tail. We'll go ahead and pull one of those out of the bag. Let's get some tunes. All right, I'm trying to pick a color that you guys will be able to see pretty easily. All right, guys, we have a 3-part segmented tail on these. We're at 4.5 inches. But what I'm going to show you about this bait and why I think this is my favorite bait of all times is this. Unlike, excuse me, hold on 1 second, guys. I want to hear something. All right, we'll turn that down. Unlike the jerk shads with the big open pocket, this one's actually just got a small open pocket, just enough to keep it semi-neutral buoyant. Unlike the streaks, which have a more conical, more zoom flukish nose to them, we've got a big bulbous front face, very thick, very blunt on there. And the reason for that is because this lure, when presented correctly, this particular lure right here will actually cause that bait to go side to side almost 2 to 3 inches. 2 to 3 inches of search from left to right on a burn it retrieve. You're talking about small jerks of 2 to 3 inches on an off cadence retrieve. And because it's got less bottom openings and more girth, you can pop this in the rise fall technique. And that's what's interesting about this particular bait. Again, red and green smashes. Yeah, this is a watermelon red with gray and a chartreuse. And it's actually 4 different colors. You guys, I can't even show you all the colors in it because it's just called red bone. That's what it's called. It's got some silver in it. It's got some glitter in it. But the streaks are the razor shads right there. 4.5 inch razor shads. Oh, I'm sorry. These are Houdinis. I thought that was red bone. These are Houdinis. This has got the silver and the green pumpkin red and the green pumpkin in it and a bit of gold. Those are one of my favorite colors by far. But the deal is probably my favorite color in the trailer, if you want me to be honest with you. The deal on a green pumpkin gets you smashed every time. Gotta wipe my hands, guys. Again, anytime you're playing with any of these soft plastic baits, make sure you wipe your hands because some of these things will get you nasty sick. For those of you that are smokers and stuff like that, you really don't want to eat this stuff, man. You know what I mean? It could end up giving you a position where you're worried about reproduction. Let me get something to drink, you guys. Hold on. Nil says, I like shiny objects, so I like beer and bass boats. Nice. I said, Rona? No, not tonight, bud. Straight water. But not the water you're thinking about, because I don't drink no regular waters. That's how you end up getting the you know what. For those of you that are thinking about investing in any type of Z-Man products, their plastics and stuff like that, I will tell you that, honestly, do yourself a huge favor and just go on ahead and buy stock in this company. Yeah, I buy Loctite by the 4-packs over here because Loctite makes probably the best super glue you're going to find. Do not get the liquid kind. The liquid kind is the kind that's in the red package, okay? The red ones that you saw, I use those, but I use them on my knots. I use the gel when I'm attaching my baits. Now, I'm going to run my baits on like I normally do, but then I'm going to put a little super glue up at the top where I meet that bait to the top of the lead. Just be careful, make sure your skirt's all the way down, because if you don't have all your skirt down on your keeper, you'll end up super gluing some of your skirt to the top of your bait, and that's not coming off. It's on there permanently, like it's your game over. Just cut it off. Just cut it. Guys, we have effectively gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of chatterbait trailers, why you use them, what circumstances you want to use them in, the reason for each and every one of them, and gave yourself a lot of information as far as little secrets like if a fish follows it in, it's because your bait's too big and it doesn't look as natural as it's supposed to. We learned a lot about different water clarities and different types of bait trailers, the 3 different retrieves of the chatterbait. And I don't care, you might find a 4th, you might find a 5th, you can find 17, I don't care. Any way you look at it, I rolled it down to 3. Burn it, off cadence, drag and drop. You do one of those 3, you're going to end up getting bit. Okay, that's all the presentations you want. Now, back to the story. Now that we're going to finish that up, we'll go into the story. We'll see what you guys have been up to. We'll answer a few questions if you guys want, and then we'll call it a night. But, so we went Saturday, and my worm technique wasn't hitting. And it got kind of interesting because we came around a set of reed wall, and I kind of had to get my worm in pretty quick so I wouldn't get caught up in the reeds as I came around. And man, I got hammered. I hammered about like a 3-pounder, 2.5, 3-pounder, like straight burning back my shaky head worm? Question mark? Yeah, sure enough. Next cast, I did the same thing. I came burning back. I mean, these things are hammering on it. And I'm thinking to myself, all day we've been working the slow retrieve, and meanwhile we should have been burning baits back because these things are on a full-on swim. Like they're catching us in action, moving through the water really fast. But remember, does it look like a worm streaking through? No, it doesn't. You're trying to mimic a bait fish, and when your momentum's going forward and you give it a quick stop and it gets that pendulum or parabolic rate of fall, you're going to get smashed. And that's what we were doing the other day, and we were kind of laughing about it because it had been a long time since, we'd caught a fish, and next thing you know, we're finding these things locking up with us on the craziest retrieve you've ever had. So today's episode, we've learned a lot of different fish information. Now, like I said, you can take any of it with a grain of salt. You can tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, and I should stick to whatever it is I do during the day. Or you can just watch the channel and see that I don't talk the talk, I walk the walk, and I'll show you a little something. But so guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate everyone's time. Everyone's good. Ice, good to see you in here. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Not really concerns, because I don't do those. But if you guys have a serious question, or if anybody's been crushing it, man, has anybody gone fishing in a while? Let's talk to the chat. Hey, thanks, Nil. I appreciate that. And look, stream's up and running, guys. No stream issues. I mean, I'm really stoked. I thought tonight's stream was fantastic. It's been a great great talk with you guys. Where's anybody from? Anybody out there fishing local like to me? Anybody fishing Central Florida? You guys still up north? I know a lot of you guys are kicking it. I've been itching lately. Yeah, I hear that. Nil's not fishing. Snow in Ohio. Oh, what was the water like Saturday? Mark, the water Saturday was fire, bud, just so you know. It was hot. I was dressed up like a ninja. I was covered in a face mask, so I didn't eat bugs. It was absolutely atrocious, but I will tell you, Buddy and I slayed it, and y'all will never see it because we couldn't keep the cameras from overheating. A little different up here. Well, Robert, I know it is, but don't forget I'm from up north. I'm a fly fisherman at heart. You know, we talked about that in a couple episodes back. We were showing off fishing gear. I know all about up north. I know all about the different plays. You have to be, you've got smallmouth there that are over aggressive, yet they have a certain style of thing they like to eat. If it gets any bigger, they don't want nothing to do with it. I noticed that with smallmouth. Mississippi. Nil, that is a beautiful, and yes, some big fish in Mississippi, especially on them river deltas. I'm telling you right now, nothing hurts worse. That's another thing that we found in the area that we fish down in South Florida. Buddy, I never had little 2-pounders come and feel like they were 3.5, 4, and 5 pound fish. Now, I'm not kidding. These things they were bringing it. They were bringing it on Saturday, and it was real interesting because we couldn't find second marks. There was no previous marks in any of these fish that we found on Saturday. We caught a lot of fish on Saturday. Not our best day, but it was pretty consistent. When it was on, it was 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, you know, or it was both of us hooking up at the same time in 2 different areas. So we were in the fish. Bugs or protein. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you guys on another serious note of usually this is another just so you know fish thing. Okay, let's talk biology right now because I'm not going to say I'm a biologist because I do not have a doctorate in biology. I will say I have a degree in biology, so I could say this. I can say that fish ecosystem's most important nutrient is the gnat. And when I say that, I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking, oh, come on, bud. You're nuts, man. The gnat, really? The gnat is the kelp. I'm sorry, not the kelp. The krill of the sea. That's what the gnat is in freshwater environments. When they are in their larvae stages, when they are in high density areas, lily pads, certain cover situations, certain emerging vegetations from the bottom, these small gnats will actually breed in the top water. The smaller bait fish tend to have entire ecosystems based around the larval to pupal stages of insect development. And where there is small bait fish, there are larger fish that eat those bait fish, and then there are larger fish that eat other larger predatory fish. So, the next time you think to yourself, I can't fish here because there's too many bugs, you're missing out on fish. As a matter of fact, you're missing the whole point of fishing, which is not the fish coming to you, it's you going to the fish. It's you finding their ecosystem, and that starts with the smallest, most insignificant but annoyingest creature on the lake, and that is the white gnat fly. Just so you guys know, little pro tip that I should have never even talked about that. Like I said, guys, we're gonna do a call-in show here. I'm not gonna do any name dropping. I'm not gonna do anything like that. But I have met some really, really, really cool people in the fishing game, and I will tell you that if I can get a chance to put any of these people out and get a call into them, which is probably something I'm gonna do, we could have some really interesting people on Tackle Talk. Like we could have some really interesting people show up on the show and have conversations and debate, you know, and it'll be people that have proven their fishing skills. So it won't be a question of, well, who does this guy think he is, or who does this guy think he is. The people that you're going to see that we're going to have either calling in or showing up. Now, I won't be able to get anybody else on the screen. I don't think my computer can handle another issue again. I've got a build idea, and I've also had a pre-order fall through because of this whole thing with the, you know, processors and every other thing that's getting yucked up right now. I might do my own build and just move on from there. Yeah, I know, Nil. That's what I'm saying. I'm gonna get working on that. Like I said, I've met some interesting people. I'm not gonna name drop again, because if it falls through, I'll really feel stupid. But if it does work out and I can announce it, and they're cool with announcing that they'll be on this day, we're gonna get some real serious pros in here talking about some real serious situations as far as teaching things that I know I'm not supposed to say, because it's things that I've learned over the years and talking to some of these guys. But I enjoy sharing the real serious tips, you know, and I think it's really important for anglers to understand that catching fish doesn't always start with you on the water. You do have to have a line in the water, but there's so many reasons why there's no fish in so many places. And when you figure out where fish are, then you can turn it up. You know, that's when you start having that day. That's when you start seeing 25 and 35 and 40 fish days. And I mean, the numbers just get astronomical, but it's because you put all of the right things into play. You're giving the correct presentation. You're not allowing the fish to decide whether they're going to follow it in or whether they're going to eat it. You don't want the fish to have that. You have two different types of fish strikes. Oh, we're going to get into it. Let's do this. There's two different types of fish strikes. There is the triggering effect, and then there is the feeding effect. Feeding effect is when it replicates something that's so natural in its area that the fish has no ability other than to eat it, because it knows exactly what it is and it's moving towards it. It saw it. It was correctly presented in front of it, and it eats it. It's what it does. You'll see that all the time. Then there's the triggering effect, where this thing came out of nowhere. That fish wanted nothing to do with it, but because it has no hands, the only thing that it could do was either snap at it or bite at it. So those are your two things. You're either going to bite at it because you think it's food, or you're going to bite at it because you just want it to stop and not be around you anymore. Either way, you're getting bit. So those are your two moves. So when you guys figure out which one of those you need to do with your fish, those can be easily replicated given those three techniques that we talked about earlier, and utilizing different baits and different bait sizes. Remember, size is the key. If they're following you in, you're too big. Okay, if you're getting hit by everything in the lake, okay, when I say everything in the lake, I mean you can't stop these things from coming in. They are all over you. You're hitting them big, small, left, right, short, tall. It doesn't even matter. You're just destroying them. When you're that on your day, it feels so good. It really does. You're on the fish. You're following the fish. You're getting the fish. They're instinctively just striking. Now, when they're all small, bump it up a little bit. I'm not talking about go from a 2.5 to a 7-inch bait. Okay, here, I'll show you guys something funny. Here, we're not talking about doing this. Okay, just for some of you guys, just so we're all on the same page, okay? If you come out and your buddy's doing this, and he's on fire, I'm talking about Buddy's 3 out of every 7 casts, Buddy got a fish coming in. Do not think that you go into your tackle box and pulling this out is going to catch you the bigger fish. Okay, that's not how it works, guys. Do not think for a second when they tell, oh, you need a big bait. That's not a good change. Okay, you put this on, you're gonna cast a lot. A lot. But again, going from like a 3-inch to a 4-inch and then maybe a 6-inch, that might be the difference. That might be that little change that you need, because you know it's already something you're doing is triggering or is causing one of those two strikes. Okay, you're either getting them thinking it's food, or you're getting them because you're pissing them off. Either way, like I said, I don't care. You can get them however you're going to get them. All right. What you can't do is catch fish without a line in the water. That's where we're going to settle on that one, right? Outlaw voice. Yeah, no. You know, buddy, he's big baits, man. That's how he rolls. But again, start small. Start small, elicit the strike, work your way up. All right, let's see what we got here. I normally do pretty good with the either rooster tail, beetle spin. Honestly, I've always kind of nothing else is working. Beetle spin, yeah, no, any kind of spinner baits. We're gonna talk about spinner baits. We're gonna talk about. They're gonna a whole night of spinner baits to talk about. You know, right now we're still kind of in the super fish tips that you're not supposed to get talking about, but you're talking about them. We're going to have some interesting tips coming up. Eventually, I'm going to start breaking out all the good knowledge, like really interesting stuff, talking to guides, talking to because I live on a lake. So I meet a lot of people. I fish a lot. You know, I spend a lot of time on other lakes. I spend a lot of time with some really, really, really competent anglers. A lot of anglers that I know that are really good anglers don't realize that the things that they're doing every day are actually triggering them more strikes. I'm going to give you one more example, guys, and then we're going to call the show. Hold on. All right, guys, so here is probably the biggest tip I'm going to give you, and then we're going to call it an evening. Have you guys ever noticed that you can be in the perfect spot, you can be throwing the perfect bait, you can be using the perfect retrieve, and no matter what, you can't get that stubborn fish to bite? You know what I'm talking about. It's just under no circumstance can you get that fish to bite. Let me tell you a little secret that a lot of people do. I know somebody who does it about every single time he catches a fish, and I don't know if he realizes it or not, or if it's just a super secret that he didn't want to share with me, but I actually heard it from someone else. Excuse me. I actually heard it from someone else who is I'm not going to say what they do, but I'm just going to tell you he's a very, very, very well-known person in the fishing industry, because I'm, like I said, again, not going to name drop. But when in doubt, and you can't get that fish to bite, that commitment bite, you know what I'm talking about. You're bringing your worm back. You know what to do. You're doing exactly what's been getting you hit all day, and you know that fish is there because you've already had that fish nibble at it once or twice, or slash at it, or in some way, shape, or form make some kind of motion towards it, so he knows he's identified it, he's seen it, and he knows he's either going to eat it because he wants to, or he's going to knock it out because he's tired of it. You understand? Here's what happens. Turn your trolling motor so the exhaust is in the direction of the fish, and give it a small press. That change in water is going to make whatever your bait presentation is, give it just that little bit of a change in pressure or in light. Because if there is particulate matter in the water, that will actually cause a movement, and that in itself can elicit the fish to strike, because the fish thinks that that motion is coming from your bait. Trust me, I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds absolutely ludicrous, but I want you guys to go back through my catalog, okay? Watch the Headwaters Undisclosed Lake. It's called Fishing Undisclosed Lake. It's a South Florida thing, okay? It's the one where Outlaw and I went down to Headwaters and I had the rattle trap fish. But I think I did a really good job in this last Headwaters one too. Watch closely when Outlaw transitions from on the trolling motor to on his rod for his setup, for his hook set. He'll tend to reach over and tap that pedal. tap that trolling motor, turns the boat towards the fish, taps the trolling motor, turns away from the fish. Now what that does is it creates like Ice is talking about right now, unexpected, or Nil's talking about unexpected current. Yeah, that unexpected change in water pressure, temperature, clarity. That's the key. It forces in that direction. That's why when you hear people saying, oh man, I wish last time somebody pulled by me, the fish bit. As soon as the guy went by in his boat, I was like, "Where you, buddy?" And all of a sudden that fish was on there. Yeah, he was. Happens all the time. Matter of fact, I can't tell you, I've got a video on Lake Harris on a pre-tournament fish on Lake Harris. So I haven't finished the video because it's not really a video, it's just a couple of clips because I was pre-fishing. Hold on. I had a guy, he wanted to pull right through where I was fishing. He saw me fishing it for like 10 minutes, right? And I was thinking to myself, this guy's really going to pull through. The guy subscribes to the channel. You know who you are, and he remembers this moment. I might actually have this guy on because you would laugh if you meet this guy. He's a really nice guy, real smart guy. He knows the fishing game. He was just in the Cabela's tournament down here with us too. But anyway, this guy turns around and he pulls right across me, right? I said, buddy, be careful. You're passing by a lot of fish. He says, oh, yeah, we already worked down here. And just as quick as he did, I said, you might want to slow down. And as soon as he took his foot off the trolling motor and turned around, I hooked up a 4.5 pounder right off it, like literally 3 foot off of the back of his motor. Because that's what I needed him to take his foot off that trolling motor, because he had already changed that pressure in that area. He'd already created that different current. He'd already created that different light spectrum because of the particulate matter in the water, be it pollen, be it whatever. He already caused that change, and he knew it too. And he looked right over at me and he was like, you're fishing in the tournament? I was like, yeah. He's like, I'll see you there. I was like, you know you will, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you know you will. And he actually watched some of my videos and hung out and came back during the tournament. We laughed together and on our way we went. But real nice guy. Again, somebody else I might end up having on the show. Some of you guys might actually know him, and that'd be kind of funny. But that's just how it works out, guys. That's just how it works out. Sometimes these small changes in the fish's environment will actually trigger the strike. So, again, guys, before we roll, I just want you guys to know I do appreciate everything you guys do as far as watching the videos, hanging out, liking the streams. I appreciate everybody showing up, guys. It's been real. It's been fun. We'll see you guys on the next one.